horrible going on. Anyway, I think we're good to go. It's 1 minute after the hour, so can we get started?
Julio, that means call the roll there, buddy.
Got to wait for the, oh no, the recording's on. Jen is doing the streaming, so we're good to go,
I
Jen?
can't believe
We're good,
everybody in the near and dear world is going to see my high blood pressure, my tan.
All right, Julio, it's all yours.
Ms. Laughlin, are you present?
Here.
Ms. Laughlin is present. Mr. Sykes?
Here.
Mr. Sykes is present. Mr. Siegel?
Here.
Mr. Siegel is present. Ms. Roig?
Here.
Ms. Roig is present. Mr. Smith?
Here.
Mr. Smith is present. Mr. Gunther?
Here.
Mr. Gunther is present, and Mr. Brooks is absent.
And can we just identify who's on the, I see Ken Walters here from the public, Phil Vallone. And who's the 70578 number?
That's me.
Oh,
Susan.
Carol.
That's Carol
Okay.
calling in. Yeah, I don't have video on my.
No worries, Carol, that's good.
Okay.
You're on here twice, actually, so I
We
just,
have her.
Yeah.
We have Carol in stereo.
yes, we do.
You're between Paul and I, Carol, just know that. On my
What a
screen.
nightmare.
Yeah, really. Okay, so we called the meeting to order, and everyone should remember this is a reconvened meeting from our February 14th meeting. And with that, I am going to turn right to our first item of business, which is, we have no bills and communications. So this is new business, which it's really not new business, it's old business, going back to the resolution pertaining to Sunset Lake Local Development Corp. And the execution of a pilot agreement with respect to the county adult care center. So with that, Walter, maybe I should turn it over to you to update us as to where we are and what's changed with this resolution, why a new resolution.
Okay, happy to do that. The resolution which authorized the execution of a lease back and pilot agreement was adopted by IDA on the at its February 14th, 2022 meeting. So that's the resolution that's governing this project right now. That resolution was posted by Jen on the website a few days prior. I'm not sure exactly how many days prior, but a few days prior to the February 14th meeting. On the Friday before the Monday meeting, we received an unexpected communication from the Liberty Central School District opposing the IDA's, opposing the deviation request that was outlined in the application and that was subject to the deviation notice that Jen sent out in accordance with the board's instructions at a prior meeting in January. That morning of the meeting, I revised the resolution that had been posted on the website to disclose the Liberty Central School District's objection to the deviation, and I had looked through the agency's UTEP and included some findings relating to those parts of the UTEP that were or seemed to be relevant to the deviation request that was made. The board unanimously adopted that resolution. A day or two after the meeting, out of abundance of caution, I started looking at some case law, and there is a Fourth Department case, the only one I could find on this issue, that said that it had set aside a deviation because the agency had not considered the UTEP in making the deviation request. It was a very nebulous decision, and it appears that the facts were that they made the deviation request with no findings. But out of an abundance of caution, I asked for this to be placed back on the agenda today. And the resolution that was posted on the website yesterday or the day before includes now an analysis of all of the Section 203 of our UTEP considerations, including those that are irrelevant. So it includes the same information in a little more verbose fashion that was in the prior resolution, but it also contains an indication that if there's something that's irrelevant, the board has considered it and found it irrelevant. Late yesterday afternoon, we received a letter from the Liberty Central School District withdrawing their objection to the deviation. So you basically have a couple of choices today. You could either do nothing and live by the February 14th resolution, which with all of the taxing jurisdictions now not objecting is probably okay. Or you could consider for adoption the more complete resolution with a couple of little cleanup changes that has been circulated this morning, which is the same resolution that was on the IDA's website, but changing two sections. One section that indicated that the school district objected now says they objected, but then thereafter withdrew their objection. And I took out the specific findings as they relate to the school district's objection because they're no longer relevant. So that's where we're at. Nothing has changed in terms of where we stand on the project. We have a lease back and a pilot that are based upon the prior approval that will be signed either today or tomorrow. And the project will proceed either under the February 14th resolution or under the resolution that's before you today.
From a legal point of view, the second item is the cleanest, right? Second proposal.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that there's any other opponents out there, but I guess I'd say, Paul, it's like chicken soup for a cold. It can't hurt. The first resolution dealt with everything that was relevant. This resolution does the same thing, but it also specifically indicates under each of the 203 criteria, those that are irrelevant, it says the board's considered it and found it to be irrelevant.
But doesn't it also state that this Liberty School District withdrew their objection?
It does.
Right. I think we'd want that.
Isn't it kind of like in school where you have the answer, but they want you to show your work in math?
That's probably a great way to look at it, except I was never very good in school, but yeah. I
could never read the next person's work product, so I could only see their answer. So I had to.
You weren't a good cheater?
No, I was never a good cheater.
Good analogy, though.
I think we should adopt the one that shows the trail of the due diligence that we presented, so that 6 years from now, when somebody picks it up, they can't, it shows the completed piece and a little bit more of a thorough process.
Is that a motion, Howard?
Wait, before you do that, just a quick question, Walter. So does this suggest this becomes kind of the template now we would use for future resolutions, meaning where you're going through each provision of the section?
No, not at all. Those provisions only relate to a deviation request, of which we rarely have.
Sorry, that's what I meant. For every deviation request, sorry.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's like chicken soup for a cold. It can't hurt.
Okay.
If all three taxing jurisdictions involved, or if it was in a village, all four taxing jurisdictions involved said, we are, we're mindful of your deviation and we support it.
Mm-hmm.
It might be overkill,
Yeah.
but under the circumstances that existed when the revised resolution was prepared, where we had support from the county and town and the school was opposing it, I think if you have circumstances like that, it pays to be very complete.
Agreed. Okay, so Howard, you were making a motion?
I'll second it.
Okay. Any further discussion about adopting this new resolution? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? Okay, the motion carries. Our next item of business is to discuss pilot projects that are in default. And Jen, are you going to take that?
Sure, I can start. So all our pilot projects have made their pilot payments. So we have nobody who still owes. We do have one project that is late on the annual lease payment. And I can talk more about that. I've gotten a request for an accommodation by the board. And I don't know, I think it could be appropriate to do that in closed session because it's a matter relating to the financial history of a particular corporation. I can name that corporation. I don't know if I need to, but I can do that. So that the board can kind of talk about the history and the situation. If
It's an appropriate topic for a closed session. So
Okay.
if the board would like to discuss it and they are more comfortable discussing it in a closed session, then somebody can make that motion.
One other thing is, before we do that, there's one other quick thing I wanted to mention. I don't know if the board wants to do all the business and then go into closed session at the end of the meeting.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think
I
that would
just-
be easier. Then we don't have to have everybody wait and come back. And
The one other thing I wanted to mention, just for the board's information, is with respect to our agribusiness revolving loan and lease fund. Last week, we discussed a couple of one upcoming loan to the startup brewery in Narrowsburg. Excuse me, not a loan, that would be an equipment lease. And they've asked for $200,000 worth of equipment. And we've also recently discussed with SVG 26, the new entity that's at the former Catskill Distilling Company facility, that they need some additional equipment. It's about $30,000. And we've approved another $180,000 of loans and leases that are, so those are committed, but they haven't been expended yet. So the fund currently has about $95,000 in it that's not committed. And it seems to be getting a lot more interest lately, and the upper limit on those requests is, I think, $200,000. Is that right, Julio?
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah,
That's
so
correct.
those are larger projects and larger requests. So I just wanted to let the board know that we have funds in there if we get another relatively small request. But it seems to be a good fund. It's performed well. And so if the board wishes to move some funds over to that fund for future applications, that might be something to consider. So I just wanted to mention it.
Do you have a recommendation on the amount that you would like to see moved over, Jen?
I think 500,000 would probably be reasonable. We have the funds to do that. And that would allow us to make 2 or 3 more meaningful projects happen. Again, there's nothing before the committee right now. But we've been seeing a lot more interest in that program recently.
You need a motion?
We
Jen?
could do it 2 ways, Ed. We could either do it by motion today, which I think is probably sufficient.
Yeah.
Or we could prepare a more formal resolution for the March 14th meeting. I think the latter is probably better because then we can post it. Then
Okay.
it would be practicable to post it on our website
All right,
24 hours before the meeting.
okay.
So we do that when we want to move money around. That's the appropriate way to do it.
I think I think if you have a reason that you need to do it quickly, you have the right to do it quickly, but where you're talking about moving money into a loan fund for future applications that haven't been made yet, we don't need to do it on the fly. We can do a resolution, take it up on the March 14th meeting, and it's a simple resolution. It would move $500,000 if you follow Jen's recommendation.
Yeah.
From our general unobligated money to the agribusiness loan and lease fund, which has been
Where it's coming from, is that interest bearing?
Yes.
they would both be equally either interest bearing or not.
Okay.
Yeah, they're both.
I mean,
Maybe.
the interest rate we're being paid is like near zero, but they're interest bearing.
okay,
Ed?
so what's the board's pleasure? Wait for the
Well, I
resolution?
think we wait. It would make sense to wait.
I agree.
Okay.
Okay, so we'll put that on the agenda for next meeting. But great, Dan, thank you for letting us know. And I think great that it's performing so well and that there's an interest.
Thank you. Yeah, it's a nice program.
Okay, so is there any other business to come before the board before we go? I guess we'll do public comment and then go into executive session, or are we going to go into exec, come out, and then do public comment?
I think we've always left public comment to the end. It's up to you.
Okay. Well, when we come out of, what I'm trying to avoid is the need for people to wait around if they don't need to. When we come out of executive session, will we be taking any action?
I have no idea because I don't know what you're going to decide in executive session, so nobody
All
can
right, so then I
answer
guess
that.
the safer thing to do is, sorry, Ken, but we're gonna go into executive session and then come out. And then.
Okay, I'll move that we go into executive session.
Okay, so
Second.
seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
The
Aye.
motion has to be more explicit than that.
What's that?
The motion has to be.
This isn't time for public comment.
And
We're
this
going
is-
into executive session to discuss a particular project.
Right, the financial history of a particular corporation.
Now, are we just gonna stay on and everybody else will be blacked out or,
Yeah,
we have?
I'll stop the recording and I'll,
You'll stop the live stream.
yeah, and I'll have to put people in a breakout room. I haven't done this in a while.
Is
The
this one
other
of
thing
those?
is that we all call back, we could all call back in and then and if you can't do it that way, and then you